Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I am part of the customer engineering team at StrongDM. Whenever you do a query to a database, make a call to AWS CLI, you do a kubectl get pods or log into a SSH server, all of these SDM client activities are logs stored as either JSON or CSV. Where these logs are stored is what is configured in the local storage setting. That is in your UI, and I will show you where that is now. This is specifically what I'm talking about, local storage. By default, these are simply log files stored locally on the relay or gateway. Importantly, if you have multiple gateways, you might wonder where the log is for a particular session. The answer is the last hop gateway or relay. The files are stored by default in home.stdm/logs/relay, some sort of timestamp.log, or in /logs in SDM Docker gateways or relay images. You might not know exactly which gateway or relay is the last hop for a particular user or data source. And you can imagine that managing these log files on the relays is more cumbersome than having a centralized place to store all of these log files. We recommend using our log export container or syslog to send these log files to a central location. If you have a problem with your SDM client, relay, or gateway, support may ask you for the error logs, which are stored in home/.sdm/sdm.log. That is the same location on the client, relay, and gateway, and these logs are not centralized, meaning if you choose to change your log location in your admin UI from local storage log files, which we saw a minute ago, to local storage syslog, these files will not be sent to that central location. These logs are not typically needed by SDM users. They are generally only requested by SDM support in case of a problem. Another thing to note, these error logs will be sent to standard out in Docker images. One of the main drivers for using SDM is capturing queries done to the many supported databases. These queries are included in the same log file that SSH and Kubernetes logs are sent to, the log location configured in local storage in your admin UI. To reiterate, the prior logs that we have discussed, errors and audit activities, go to their separate locations, but everything else, colloquially known as queries and captures, goes to the location configured in local storage. You can follow database queries in the UI under logs queries, but that is not very practical in environments with many requests. We advise you to export these logs to your own log destination, like Datadog, Splunk, Sumo, S3, CloudWatch, etc. And we make this very easy to do using our log export container. For our demo today, I'm just going to use the local file storage. And I'm going to connect to a Postgres SQL database that I have access to. So on the bottom of the screen, I'm going to connect to a Postgres data source, and it will show me that I am successfully connected. So I'm going to tail the log file while I do request to Postgres. For this demo, I have a gateway in a local CentOS-based Kubernetes cluster. I'll exec into the gateway pod and tail the most recent log file in the /logs folder. Remember, in Docker images, the SDM logs, if file is chosen as the local storage method, are stored in /logs. In production, you can understand how this wouldn't be ideal, but it's fine for this demo. So here, I will show you that I'm connected to the Kubernetes cluster in StrongDM. This is my context, and if I do a kubectl config view, I will show what that context is. So it's CentOS, this is my user, this is the cluster, and that cluster is pointing to localhost to a particular port on my localhost, which means it's going through SDM in order to connect to the Kubernetes cluster. So I'm going to do a command get pods, which is a very normal part of operation, to show you what pods are available on this cluster. And you can see right here, this is my gateway pod. If I go over to our UI under activities, under Kubernetes, you will see that I just ran this get pods command. So you can see that I'm actually using SDM to get to my Kubernetes cluster right now. So in the top screen, I'm going to show you an example of all of the get pods requests that I had in audit activities. Oh, my copy and paste mixed up these double quotes. So you can see these are all the events from a particular time frame where I sent the kubectl get pods command. And you can see it will take a little bit of time, and then the most current session will show up. So let's log into the gateway pod and tail the log, because again, my gateway actually resides on a pod inside Kubernetes. So this is my pod running my gateway, and I'm going to move into /logs, because that's where all my relay logs are, and I'm going to tail this file. And you can see that I have some previous queries in here. Now, I'm going to send a command from here to make a PostgreSQL connection. So I'm actually connected to a Postgres resource, and now I'm going to send a command. You can see when I sent the command, I see it up top. You can actually see two different log lines. One's a start, one's a complete. And you can see in here all of the parts of the request. So if I do another request like that, I will see more requests coming through. Now you see what appears to be just a ton of logs. You can see a bunch of these other logs. There's actually Kubernetes logs, as this session that I'm in is being recorded, and it's being recorded to the gateway that's relying on the pod. So it's kind of a snake eating its tail right now. But I'm actually able to get the information about this query, both from the query itself in the logs and from the Kubernetes session that I'm recording in the logs inside Kubernetes. So I can pick out the non-Kubernetes sessions in the log. I can find out what's the last log. And these are the sessions within that log file that are not Kubernetes logs. You will notice that these logs, these sessions start with a 0, and 0 means that these are database sessions. So if I want to look at the log for a particular session like this, I can just grab it out of that log file. And it looks like that. Maybe a little bit easier to see this way. So this is the start, and this is the complete. And you can see all of the information within there. And if you wanted to, you can use something like this to just see the query. Oh. Show you an example of one. There you go. So now you can see just this query. Now, with this information, you can do whatever you want. If you've exported this to your SIEM, you can use any of the information within this particular field to perform another action. So I'm going to exit out of the Kubernetes session. So now what I just did was I exited the Kubernetes session. And so now what we should be able to do is see that Kubernetes session in StrongDM. So previously, I just had to get pods. And now you see that, so this was the get pods that I showed earlier, and this is the new session that I just created. So if I want to do a replay of this session, I can just do it straight from the UI. And you can see these are the exact same commands that I sent earlier. So I'm not going to wait for all 3 minutes of it, but you get the idea.